Hey guys, I want to thank you for downloading this recent episode from the podcast C's Get Degrees. Sit back and relax. This message that's coming through this episode is going to be phenomenal. So once again, guys, thank you for downloading. Go visit Apple, iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Amazon Music today. And for all the swag lovers, go visit www.thechadmsmith.shop to go visit all the brand new t-shirts and swags from the podcast C's Get Degrees, and also all the other swag from CH Brand. So once again, guys, thank you for recent downloads. Enjoy this unbelievable, heart-stopping, wonderful podcast by Tiffani. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to C's Get Degrees. We have a very special guest, and it's actually coming the day after her book launch. So welcome to the pod, Tiffani Patlan.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here. I'm excited. Today is an amazing day. I can officially call myself a published author.
That is amazing. And I know I have a few friends that are writing books on the side and even launching. I think one's on like her 8th book in a year.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah. How tough is that process?
I don't feel that it was, there were moments I never learned or realized that writing a book was so therapeutic. I've heard of journal writing, and just writing in general is good to do, release rituals, things like that. But I never put two and two together. Writing a book was challenging because it kind of forces you to, when you're writing a teaching memoir, that is, because you're having to go back into your mind and into memories that might not have been that pretty, which reveals suppressed emotions that you've been carrying for quite some time that you might not even have been aware of. And so that can be challenging, but it's really a beautiful thing though, because you're healing through it. And with me, I had a book coach. So that helps with the accountability. The accountability is huge because we always make excuses. We can make excuses that we don't have enough time. We're too tired. We're a parent. We have kids. Well, I'm a mom. I'm married. I'm an entrepreneur. I have 2 businesses that I'm trying to do. I also homeschool my children, and I'm trying to write this book. So I swear if I could do it, anybody can do it. And it's a real beautiful thing. I encourage everybody to do it if you have a story in you.
And she's nicely thrown me under the bus because me and her were just discussing because I'm like, God, I got no damn time to write a book. And she just,
you could do it.
She gave me the mom smile when she said that. All right. So since we got the book launch ready to go, I know people are going to see it in the book, but tell us about your story.
My story begins as far back as I can remember. And I didn't even realize that when I was starting to write my story. When I sat down and I said, okay, here we go. I had to sit there and think, okay, when did the stuff happen? And I kept going back in my head and back and back and back. And then I realized, wow, it's as far back as I can remember. And I didn't even realize that. So that's just another, example of how writing a book, you realize things. It's a beautiful thing. And I realized that I had been born into a home that was full of mental illness. I was also bullied in my home. These are things that I experienced as a young girl growing up, and I didn't realize that that's the type of environment I was growing up in because I was, too young. But that's what I went through. I ended up having a hard time having a solid, good, healthy relationship with my mother. And she did her best. I mean, my parents did the best that they could, but the reality is that there were things missing that I needed. I didn't learn the power of my voice. It was always about do what you're told. You're not allowed to ask questions. I know my mother tried to have healthy communication with us, but it kind of didn't really work out. So I ended up growing up feeling very much alone, unloved, unwanted, feeling like I didn't matter. My voice didn't matter. And that ended up, I don't know, I guess leaching into school because then I ended up getting bullied in school. That started in 5th grade, and it ended up going on until 6th grade, and until I started what they say is like fighting back, because I ended up getting bullied by, when I was in 6th grade, I got bullied by a 7th grader. And I had already been getting bullied by the 5th graders from my other school, the girls that were there. These were all females. And now that I know and looking back, I can see that those young girls were hurting and they were going through things themselves. I mean, I was too, but I wasn't lashing out on anybody. It wasn't until that 7th grader started picking on me, I had to fight back. And I didn't even know what I was doing. I just, I just grabbed her and held her down and was like, "Are you gonna leave me alone now?" And that was pretty much it. But in a weird, strange way that saved me, because, everybody around me was like, "Don't mess with Tiffani." And in a weird way that saved me, because it stopped, the bullying stopped. But then things at home weren't any better. It got to the point where I started cutting myself on my arm. The first incident that happened, my mother and I don't remember what we were arguing about, but it got to the point where she kicked me out of the house. And, I wasn't dressed or anything. I was barefoot. I don't remember what I was wearing, probably pajamas, but she kicked me out, and we lived in an apartment complex. And, in an apartment complex, you have your parking lot, and there was a wall. And I didn't want anybody to see me because I had nowhere to go. I wasn't properly dressed. So I'd hop the wall and I just hung out in that big, huge desert. It's off of Sunset Road in Las Vegas. I don't know, maybe there's, communities being built there, but when I was there, it was just a big, huge, empty, deserted lot. And I remember the sun shining down on me, and I remember just walking around, just feeling lost. And that's when I saw with broken beer bottles littered all over the ground. And I don't know what compelled me to do it. Never heard of self-mutilation before, never seen it before. And I just picked up a piece of glass and carved in my arm, "I hate mom." And looking back, I realized that it's because I was suffering so bad to have a solid relationship with my mother, and it just was not there. And things just continued to spiral out of control. And I think my mother and father thought it best to send us to Texas, because both sides of my family lived there, my father's side and my mother's side. So they sent my older brother and I to go live over there. To go visit over there. And that's when I was incestuously raped by my 23-year-old cousin. And coming back home to that, well, actually, let me back up, because there's more to that. That happened, and I didn't say anything to anybody because I was in shock. I asked to go to my other side of my family to go visit with them. And then that's when my uncle molested me. So this all happened within a short time frame when I was 12 years old. So then I go back home, and I don't say anything, because when I was in Texas, I did get the nerve to speak up and say something to my grandfather. But really, the only thing that came out of all that was me being very uncomfortable, me having to say what happened more than once, which each time I had to say it, it was even more watered down, because it was the shame, the uncomfortableness, the awkwardness. You can't just expect somebody who's gone through that to just say, "Okay, here, now the person's there that did this to you, and tell us what happened." It's like, you have to treat this with more compassion and be more gentle. I mean, it's traumatic for people, especially when you're younger. The younger you are, I feel like the more traumatic it is. I mean, no matter what age, it's traumatic. So after that happened, I didn't really feel like bringing up what happened with my cousin. So it kind of just is what it was. I came back home, started 8th grade, and I had already had all this other baggage, and now this happened. And mind you, no counseling, no therapy, no healthy communication. So I was just surviving. I'm now a 14-year-old girl starting 8th grade in a relationship, still having issues with my parents, getting to the point where I'm wearing a bra and underwear underneath my clothes a swimsuit as bra and underwear underneath my clothes, because my parents would kick me out. And I would go to the community pool and I would sit in the jacuzzi to keep warm because it was cold outside. And I would lay with my head out like this. And that's how I would sleep at night. And no child should have to go through that. There are times when I wasn't able to shower or have clean clothes. So I would opt to miss the school bus and not go to school. I would be hanging around, just because there were apartments and then there were houses. And so I would just be wandering around aimlessly, just trying to find a place to be until my boyfriend would get off the school bus after the end of the school day. And that's when there was drugs being introduced to me. alcohol. That's the first time I drank alcohol. Now, if this isn't a sign that I was suffering, I don't know what is. My parents had a bottle of Seagram 7 whiskey in the pantry, and I didn't know how to drink. Okay, I didn't understand that, but drinking seemed really normal. And so what I ended up doing is I ended up getting like a regular glass, a glass. It was just a glass, and I filled it up maybe this much full of whiskey. I didn't know that you weren't supposed to do that. And I remember it smelled really bad. And I sat in my bedroom and I plugged my nose and I chugged as much of it as I could. And then I went downstairs to go to the school bus. And that was I share more details about that in my book, but that was the first time that I drank. And to anybody looking at that, that is a red flag. That is saying, or even a white flag, it's saying, help me, look at me. Like, why would a 14-year-old feel compelled to drink? I don't even really remember what was going through my mind at that time. I was just full of emotion and trauma, and I just didn't know what to do with it. And that, just led into more, I don't know what my parents were thinking when they thought of me. They didn't know what to do with me. I ended up in Monte Vista Hospital for a couple of weeks. They came to visit me there, and I don't know why they pulled me out. They felt I didn't need to be there anymore for some reason. So I wasn't really getting any help, and my life just continued to spiral out of control. I made an attempt to visit with my mom, to like spend time with her, and she was really into rock and roll concerts. So I bought a couple concert tickets to go hang out with her. And what ended up happening is that we ended up going home that evening with strange men. And later on, this 32-year-old man and I would be in a romantic relationship. He would be the one that I would run to when I would get kicked out of my home. He would be the one that would take care of me. And this is where I think my mind started to develop these odd thoughts that, when he lights a cigarette, he lights one for me. Oh, how sweet. Oh, he's making me a Jack and Coke mixed drink. Oh, that's so sweet. Oh, he's offering me to hit the pipe first, of weed. Like, oh, how sweet. I'm like, oh, I'm his special girl, Wow. I look back at that and I think about a lot of other women in this world that are caught up in relationships like that. And it's not healthy. And it's like, in my mind, I didn't understand. I didn't know. It's like I was still young, expecting to be taken care of, and I wasn't being taken care of by my parents. This 32-year-old man was taking care of me. Granted, he was sexually abusing me, and I was playing mom to his 2 stepkids. And it was weird. It's like, how come people never said anything? And looking back, I realized that there were so many incidences where he'd be like, no, not here. And he would push me away if I came up to give him a hug. Or he got angry with me because I was roller skating outside with the next door neighbor's little girl. And I guess it's because I was acting my age. So he would get angry at me, because now that I know, it's because he didn't want people to know what he was doing. And it's mind-boggling to me when I think about that, and how much of that is happening in the world today. And that's what's scary. And people are all about being afraid to get involved in other people's business. People are afraid to say things. And I say, if you think that something is wrong and it has to do with the child, I don't care what's going on. You should speak up for that child. Me, I wish people were to have stuck up for me on my behalf, because I did not know that I had power in my voice. I did not learn that. And I think that alone opened me up to be more vulnerable and to be abused more in many different ways, because that's what kept happening in my life. After being with this, guy at 14, things just kept spiraling out of control, in and out of bad relationships, more drug use, more alcoholism. I ended up being out on the street. My parents were trying to, I guess, continue to help me, either that, or maybe they were just trying to get me out of their hair. But they sent me to go live with another cousin that lived there in Las Vegas. And that cousin incestuously raped me. And then that happened to me again at my apartment with his brother. Another random day, another cousin, another incident of incestuous rape. So these things kept happening to me, and I started to hate myself. So as a child, you're supposed to be developing self-esteem, self-love, confidence. And all of that was I'm supposed to be developing that. And I don't think it was ever developed. I was at ground zero, and this stuff is supposed to be developing. And instead, I was just being going the other way. And I was oblivious because I was so young. I just did not know. And so these things, my traumatic experiences just kept getting piled on top of each other over and over and over and over again. I remember trying to go to school. That was challenging because I didn't have parents to take me to school. I didn't have a steady address to ride the bus. I did my best. I share a lot of that in my story, I even have journal entries I found, and I put them in there. My mom was lost trying to find her way. My parents got divorced. My dad was starting a new life with his new wife, and they took on my two younger brothers. And I was just floating around. My brother found solace in a friend. He was able to live with him. And me, that's why I say the streets of Las Vegas were literally my home, because that's what I did. I bounced around from this place to that place. I, experienced homelessness. I experienced hunger pains. I experienced being on the street at a bus stop, freezing, and I couldn't make it stop, just nowhere to go, nowhere to sleep. And so many times that I've experienced that. And there was one pivotal moment in my life where I was outside and it was a street and there was houses. And it was one of those times where I was walking around aimlessly, and I don't even remember what happened before that or even what happened after that. It's just a special moment that I cherish and I carry with me, because out of everything that had ever happened to me, I realized that I was always alone, and I was just ready to end my life. I was like, I'm done. I don't want to live like this. If looking like this is causing men to come think that they could just sexually abuse me at every whim, I don't want to look like this. I hate myself. I don't want to be this person. Like, what is my point? Why am I here? My parents don't love me. They don't care about me. Like, nobody's there. What the hell is my purpose in this world? That's really what I thought. And when I found myself on that street that one night, I screamed out, and to anybody. I wanted some random stranger or bad person to just come and take me out of my misery. Do whatever you want to do to me, off me. I didn't care at that point, because it just didn't make sense. What was the point of carrying on? And I'm screaming out for this. I was waiting for a car to drive by. I would gladly run into it. I was just looking for anything and everything. And I was met with complete silence. No cars. Nobody turned on their lights. Nobody opened their door to yell at me to shut up because they were sleeping. Nothing. And that's when I realized I was like forced to look inward. And it was like, okay, what I got from that silence was that, Tiffani, nobody is there for you. Nobody's going to help you. So you can either lay down and die, or you can get up and take charge of your life. And I didn't even know what I was going to do, but I did. I stood up, I brushed myself off, and I kept on going. And I didn't have it all figured out at all. I ended up going to jail. I've gone to juvie several times. I was put in child haven. At one point, I thought to myself, child haven, if nobody knows, it's a place where children go, I guess, who are neglected, who need help, who need guidance, things like that. And I was being privately homeschooled. I had a warm bed to sleep in. I was safe. I wasn't out on the streets. I wasn't doing drugs. It was a nice place. And I think back and I wonder, why did my mom pick me back up? Because I almost feel like she should have just left me there, because it wasn't shortly long after that I was back out on the street doing the same thing, trying to find a place to lay my head, trying to find food to eat. And finally, it got to the point where I just, started working two jobs. At the age of 14 years old, I learned that I could get a working permit. And that's when I started working. At 14, 15, 16, I would get my hands on any jobs that I could, but it was challenging because at 14 years old, trying to work in for example, a sandwich shop, you can't use the machine to slice the meat because it's, a hazard. So I couldn't get paid those extra $2 because I wasn't old enough. And I remember hating that. And I couldn't wait to get older so that way I could make enough money so I could take care of myself. And that's all I had been doing, was just putting my head down and trying to work. But because I was so broken inside and mentally ill, I suffered from anxiety disorder, depression, PTSD. I would have nightmares where I would wake up at night screaming, saying, don't touch me, just fighting back all those other times that I didn't. Because they say that when women are raped, they tend to, this is one thing that they do. Some will fight back, Some will do what they call, like, I forget the name of it, but it's similar to what a possum does. Is like you're plain dead. You become temporarily paralyzed, and that's like a defense mechanism. And that's what my body would always go into. So anytime that I found myself in an unsafe situation, my body thought it was protecting me by doing that, but in reality I was becoming paralyzed, so I couldn't even scream out and say stop or no or leave me alone or get up and push him and walk away. Like I couldn't do things like that. um it's funny because this whole time I thought I was alone, but I'll share this incident that's so dear to me, because there was a time when I was hitchhiking on the street, and some guy in a Jeep picked me up, took me to some place, an apartment where there was other guys. I partook in drugs and drinking. I don't even remember what it was, because that's something that I did. I never questioned anything. I never bothered to say, oh no thank you, I don't want to drink right now. Oh, what is that? Oh, I don't know what that is. No thank you, I don't want that. Like I never developed my voice, so I didn't even do that. I couldn't even say that. Like I didn't know that I could do that. It's strange, I know, but that's how I grew up. That was my mentality because of everything that I had gone through. And this gentleman, after a while, I don't know, he just said, hey, you want to go for a drive? And I'm like, yeah, sure. So we go for a drive, and this guy is driving me out of town. And I remember getting scared because we were headed on the outskirts of town where the deserts are. And I've lived in Vegas since the 1986, I want to say. And I had heard stories of the mafia and dead bodies being buried back there and things like that in the desert. So I was scared because I knew this guy was a stranger and I didn't understand why he was taking me out here. And he took me into this remote area. It was quiet. You couldn't see anything. You could see the stars. And if you're in Las Vegas, it's so bright that when you look up, you can't see the stars unless you drive really far out. And that's what he did. He drove me out to the desert, and there was nothing. I mean, nothing. It was just me, him in the Jeep, and silence, the stars in the sky, the hot air, flipping through my hair as he's driving. And then he pulls up and he stops in the middle of the desert with nothing around us. And I had pretended to pass out. That was my defense mechanism. And then I hear the familiar belt buckle. I knew what was about to happen. He had his way with me. And I didn't fight back. I went into my normal paralyzing stance. And I remember thinking, what's going to happen to me? Is this going to be the end of me? And I thought he would have, kicked me out and left me there to rot. I could have been running and screaming. Nobody would have heard me. And he could have left me there in the middle of the desert. He could have killed me. There's so many things that could have happened, but none of that happened. I don't know what compelled him to drive me back, to take me to where I needed to go. I don't know what compelled him to do that. And I do believe that, God was watching over me. Angels were watching over me. I even have another story where I share about a series of ones being presented in my life where I was being raped. The people I was living with did not know anything, and they received a mysterious text of ones. And we had just gotten a pager, and I had no way to get to a phone. And they said that the reason why they called the cops was because I got a series of ones and they thought I was calling for help. So there's like things like that I've realized looking back at my entire story. I had suffered so much trauma, so much abuse, so many unfortunate incidences. And I thought that I was alone in the world, when really I did have a higher power, something special keeping watch over me. I mean, and it's weird because I remember thinking, not understanding, I never understood, like, how could there be a God if all of this horrific stuff is happening to me one after another for years? It was just such an ugly past that I endured. And it just never made sense to me until writing my book. And that's when I realized I've learned things. Your past doesn't happen to you, it happens for you. And I have gone through an amazing transformation just this past winter of 2019. And I thought that I had finally come to a good place, because after all the abuse, string of failed relationships, trying to put myself in school, ended up meeting my husband, We're married. We have kids, Utah, living in a house. I thought everything was okay. The past, all that ugliness is gone. But that wasn't true. And I learned that by being in Utah and experiencing the winter blues. And that can bring up depression. And if you have any suppressed emotions, that will come out. And that's what happened to me. And I was so completely oblivious and unaware of any of this. And it got to the point where I'm laying in bed and I don't want to get out. I don't know where it came from, but it was like a blanket of depression that I thought I had escaped, and it just consumed me. And I would just lay in bed for a couple of days and I just didn't want to get out of bed. I thought, what's the point? I've suffered so much, and I got a house, I went to school, I did all this stuff. And now look, I'm still having issues in my marriage. I'm still, suffering. Look at this depression I'm experiencing. It didn't make sense. And I just wanted to give up. I was done. I was like, I'm done. I just don't want to live this life anymore. I did my best and this is it. No. And then seeing my children come inside my bedroom and to see mommy laying in the bed, after a minute that got to me. And I thought, you know what? My children do not deserve this. Just because that person over there may have hurt me and I'm carrying that pain inside, that my children do not deserve for me to parent from that hurt place. My children don't deserve that. They deserve better than that. So I didn't know what to do. But I said, I'm going to do something. And I made myself get up and I said, I'm going to research. I'm going to research anything and everything that I possibly can. And what stuck out to me the most was those simple words: mind, body, and soul. Seen it everywhere, heard about it. Okay. Self-love, self-confidence. Yeah. Everybody's heard of that, right? But I admit that I never truly understood what that really meant inside. I didn't. I thought I did, but I said, all right, this is supposed to work. Okay, fine. Every day I'm going to do something to focus on my mental health, my physical health, and my spiritual health. And when I started doing that, I started to live in alignment. And what I've learned is that when you live in alignment, when you live a life in balance, that's when healing happens. And it's unique for each one of us because our trauma is not the same. But living in alignment is key for everybody. That in itself is universal. And I had suppressed emotions reveal themselves to me. And a lot of times what people will do is they'll take medication or they'll drink or they'll do drugs. Why? To numb their feelings so they can get through life. That is the wrong thing to do. We need to feel to heal. And I experienced that firsthand. And I learned about release rituals. I did breakthrough sessions with my book coach. I was gifted the experience of muscle testing, where I learned that's where they can tell what traumas are hidden in the tissues, and that you can communicate with your subconscious mind, which is where your suppressed emotions, live. And I was able to experience and learn all this. And as, suppressed emotions revealed themselves to me, I did the work that I needed to do to relieve that. I started doing affirmations. I started going out for a walk every day with my family. So the walking was the exercise. I would say affirmations because where I live, there's a beautiful lake, and it just stepping outside, it lifts my spirits. And there's actually research that says that people who live near water are happier. It's kind of crazy, but it works. And so by going outside, I was taking care of the mental health, I was taking care of the physical health, and spiritually, just by being in nature, that is helping you connect spiritually. So it was like a trifecta, and I started doing that. And immediately I started noticing changes in myself, in my husband, in my family, in my relationships, my overall look on the world. It's like somebody removed the glass that was full of negativity, and it was dirty. It's like somebody cleaned it for me and I could see now. And it's crazy because my thoughts are different, my feelings are different, everything is, and it's all for the better. And it's because I turned away from living that life of darkness, and it all happened just by living in alignment. And I encourage everybody to do that. And that's why in my book, not only do I share, parts of my story, to try to inspire people like, look, I've been here, I've been there, because I want to be able to relate to people. Like, I understand where you're coming from. I've been there. I know what it's like to feel in love, unwanted, stuck in the dark, all that stuff, I get it. And after experiencing my own transformation, I don't feel those things anymore. My anxiety disorder is gone. Like anxiety is natural, to protect you, but it can become and develop into a disorder when we experience trauma. And mine has significantly gone down, if not there at all. There's moments where I can feel like something will happen and I feel the fear, but I acknowledge it and I say, thank you, but you're not needed. And then I continue on with my day. And it sounds very simple, and it really is. And I know, because there were times where I wouldn't go somewhere and I would trick myself out of going because my anxiety was consuming me. My anxiety was so debilitating, it prevented me from excelling and living a full life. And it's funny because my husband and I ended up having a really bad, circumstance to where we were almost going to divorce. And this brought him to California for us to have a mild separation. And it's strange because if it weren't for that, I would not have been forced to face my fear. And at this time, he had lost his job. We were struggling financially. I was vendoring as a vendor for my Cosmic Sweets business. And that's how every day I had to go to this place and put myself out there. And sometimes I'd be in tears, I would be trembling, but I did it anyways because I had little mouths to feed. And so I did what I had to do. But after a while, I realized and learned, okay, yes, I was scared, but I did it anyways. And there was nothing to be scared of. And that's when I realized that is nothing but a big fat fake lie. What is that? It's a fake fear. I don't want that in my life. It's preventing me from becoming everything it is that I was meant to be. So even though that experience with my husband was really ugly and bad, I brought that up to him and he was like, wow. And it's true. Something beautiful came from that really ugly experience. And we're tighter than ever. My husband and I are healing together. It's such a beautiful thing. It's just, you can see it in all areas. Before, when I was on Facebook, I wouldn't even have my own face on my profile page. I do now. I'm doing live videos now. I would never have been able to do that before. I'm so grateful for this amazing transformation that I've experienced. My life's passion is now to share with everybody. Look how dark my past was and look where I'm at now. If I can do that, you can do that. And it's my life's passion to just try to reach those people that might be feeling alone, like on the street, like I was that day, or that are just stuck or just can't understand why it seems like life is okay. What is this dark cloud that keeps following me? Why can't I get past this, whatever this is? Like, I understand that experience. And if you're feeling that way, I just want to encourage you. It's to reinvent your entire world. That's what I say in my book. That's what I did. I said, you know what? I'm not going to listen to the news or do what that person says or do what that person says. It's all about you. Everything comes from you. It's inside of you. And if bad things have happened, we have to work through those. It's a personal responsibility that I believe that we all have. You attract where you're at. And I think that's why I had so many failed relationships, because I was full of mental illness, anxiety, depression, all this stuff. And the men that I was attracting, were in that same area. But little by little, I kept being elevated, little by little, little by little. And I'm to where I'm at today. And it's just an amazing, beautiful thing. I can't say that enough. And now that my book is out there, yesterday, I officially put it out there. And I feel like I could do anything. I mean, I look back, the girl, and I said this before, the girl who was barefoot, the girl who was cutting herself, the girl who put a knife up to her heart and wanted, to kill herself, the girl that would get drunk and, was promiscuous, just opened herself to be abused more because she just didn't know what to do with herself. That girl wrote a book. That girl transformed her entire life. And that is who you see here today. I can honestly tell you, I do not suffer from depression. I don't have those PTSD, experiences anymore. I don't feel the need to drink every day. I don't feel the need to do drugs. I don't feel the need to, expose myself in unhealthy ways. I found the power of my voice, which is why I'm able to be here right now and share my story with you today. And I'm doing it for all of you. I'm doing it for everybody in the world that has ever been abused, that has ever been hurt or bullied or anything. And I think that this is what the world needs. The world just needs to heal. And the power is in each and every one of us. We all have this amazing power to heal ourselves. And I just encourage everybody to look deep inside, because that's where your true power lies. For the longest time, I was believing the lies of my circumstances. With all the abuse I endured, I believed I was unloved. I believed I was unwanted. I believed I wasn't worthy. I believed that, I was put on this earth to be abused. And that was all a lie because of the life that I was living. The truth revealed itself to me. I am not any of those things. I'm no longer a victim. I am a victor. I am taking charge of my life. Yes, things may have happened to me. I have opened my heart to forgiveness. I have forgiven my parents for doing, the things that they did. They did the best that they could. I feel like it's illogical to be angry with somebody for not doing something when they didn't know how. I say this in my book. You wouldn't be mad at a 2-year-old for not knowing how to read. They were never taught. So why would you? That's illogical. And that's the way I look at it. And it's helped me to forgive my parents and anybody else who has wronged me, because I choose not to live with that ugliness in my heart, because it only brings me down. And the people on social media are saying that forgiveness is toxic positivity. And I keep bringing this up because I want to correct that. That is 1,000% wrong. And it breaks my heart, because I know that when we're mentally ill and our minds are just full of all these negative thoughts, it's very challenging to see and think that there could ever be a way out. Believe me, I get that. And that's the reason why I am sharing my story with you all, to let you know that I get that, but it's not true. You can open your heart and forgive, and through love and compassion, that really, I know it's cheesy, but that really is the way to get rid of all that. It's like, by choosing to hold on to that pain from anybody that wronged you, sexual abuse, just sabotage, betrayal, it doesn't matter. If you were hurt, then those feelings matter. They are important to you. And if you've experienced something and you choose to hold on to it and not forgive them, and hold a grudge and hold hatred, you're only hurting yourself. What is that other person doing? Are they sitting there in pain, thinking about you, what they did to you? Probably not.
Nope.
Whether they are or not, that doesn't really matter. What matters is you. What are you doing? You're holding on to that pain. You're carrying it with you every day. Why? It's just hurting you every day. Release it. You deserve to release it. You don't have to live with any of that in your heart. It's a choice. But I think a lot of us are just not taught this. I mean, look, I'm a 38-year-old woman. Okay. And it wasn't till 2019 that I learned self-love. That was when I found my voice. So your age doesn't matter. It's never too late for you. It really isn't.
Yeah,
Anybody and everybody can change their life.
I was gonna say I'm 35 and March 11th, so what is it, 20 days? And it took me 33 years to realize that. So I'm pretty much 5 years behind you at that moment. But no, when it comes to like and I'm blown away, because I'm going through, I'm like, I was that person that dumped half the bottle of the alcohol, or half the cup of the alcohol for 13. I started doing that, and I ended at 22, 23 years old. So 10 years. So mainly in my main brain development, I was dumping, and I didn't even put ice in it, to be honest. It was just straight.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was you go to, it's the 24-ounce cups from Walmart. So I would just do whiskey and mix and whatever, and I would just pound that every night, like 2-3 of those. And that turned into, going through some finding your, going into college, finding my wife, finding now my ex-wife. And then a lot of that stuff in the past rolled back out, and I turned to vodka again for that and did the same exact pattern. And now I'm, like I said, I'm 35. So finally I am year and a quarter sober. And it was pretty much the same.
That's great.
Yeah, it's amazing. I'm just sitting here smiling, because not as much the trauma, but like the inner voice, like I battled what I'm starting to find out, generational depression. The more you dig in, the more you start cleaning up, the more you're starting to connect the dots going in the back. And like I was telling my sister straight up, me and her had the same conversation talking about like cleaning up and alcoholism and mental health and stuff. Cause she's like, dude, you're like 9 months into it. She's like, you never thought you'd be clean. And she's like, here,
Wow.
you're like blowing people away. And people are like, dude, how long has it been? And now I'm at the point where I'm like you, where it's like, we're going to end this. We're going to tell everyone where to find you, but I want to have you back on because you and me both were in those stages. And for the people that are either drinking every day, and I'm not like, guys, it's your life. I don't care, but I will help you when you need help. I want, this idea came to me and I totally get it. You totally get it, but I want somehow to record a podcast where we can teach people about the mask that people put on. When we were in that mindset, all of a sudden that mask comes on, and and kind of explain to people how that freedom, and to us it was freedom. Obviously we were spiraling out of control. I get that, but it was like our safe zone where we felt like we were completely free. And
Yeah, I would love to do that.
yeah, you just kept going. I could just sit here and shut up, and I'm like, someone's out talking to me. This is awesome. But no, I'm definitely gonna have you back, and I'm definitely we're gonna dig deep into that stuff, because you had a little more like the other drugs and stuff into it, but I want to, coming from an addict's perspective or someone with an addictive personality, I think we need to record on that part.
I would love to do that. I think it would help a lot of people. So I'm all for that. I want to help heal the world. And if we can do that by having a conversation and sharing, then I'm all for it.
Yeah, no, it's no problem. I will keep you posted, but tell everyone where we can find you. And then when I'm done recording here, we'll talk about coming back for the other part.
My book was just launched yesterday, which was Wednesday, February 24th. And so everybody can get their free or their 99-cent Kindle e-version. And I'm asking everybody to please leave me a review so others can learn the power of healing in that book. And there's also the paperback version that is available. You can also go to my website, unlockingyourabilitytoheal.com, to learn more information, or you could just visit tiffanipatlan.com, and that shares more about everything it is that I'm doing.
No problem. Any Instagram or any the other social media stuff, or just the standard stuff?
Instagram is under Unlocking Your Ability to Heal. But if you go to my TiffaniPatlan.com, everything is there. There's links for everything that I'm doing, my podcast, my 2 businesses, my book. I'm aiming to build an empire to further enhance everybody's healing in mental, physical, and spiritual health.
All right, no problem. Thank you very much for the show. And we are done with this episode. And guys, she will return.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.